Now see how I'm using my hand there already before I even start the artwork? I'm already visualizing how I'm going to start to put this whole thing together. Now, having said that, I've got a little bit of white, a little bit of cerulean blue, and the painting should look a little like this, hopefully, by the end of this little exercise. Of course it will, because that's the end result. Anyway, guys and gals, I'm Hef, and thanks for tuning in for another little tutorial on how to put this very, very easy rose painting together. Now, it is beginner friendly and really good for the newbies, but also for those that are returning to their art. You've had to put your art on the back burner because it really didn't pay the bills and that was what you had to focus on. Well, let me say that you can do both. I mean, that was me. I've been a truck driver, I've been in the Defence Force, I've been a builder, I've done so many millions of jobs, yet through it all my art has always stayed with me. Believe it or not, I was much better than I am now in my 20s, in my late teens. But even though I had to work and I put my art on the back burner, like I said earlier, somehow it has still stayed with me. That skill has stayed with me. So don't feel it is too late. I'm just a testament that you can come back to it. And the self-worth I get from creating something gives me a real buzz. I mean, I can drive from one side of the country to the next and deliver food and do all those important things and make money. But if I've had a good weekend where I've managed to get in front of the easel, I go to bed that night just feeling so fulfilled and so content. And actually, as I think of it, I can also go to bed feeling an absolute miserable failure too, because sometimes you don't have the best day and the painting just doesn't go your way, but there's always a chance to fix that. And like I said, when you're creating, you just feel on top of the world. So I've just got to the end of scraping all that paint onto the canvas there with that little plastic spatula, and now I'm ready to start to add some darker blue just to give some more interest to that background. Again, I incorporate the beautiful little plastic spatula there, which is only a couple of bucks from one of the cheap stores, let's say $2 shop or something. They usually come in a little blister pack of 4 or 5 arrangements. Like to use them, they're quite flexible, don't hurt the canvas at all. And as you can see there, I'm just scraping that paint left and right and up and down in all sorts of different directions. Now I'm using that spatula because I deliberately don't want to blend. I just want to be able to keep these deliberate lines that push that lighter blue, if you'd like to say, through that darker blue. And I'll also add some white in just a second. Now again, I'm not using a brush, I'm using that spatula. I just want that nice chunky white to really just pop out from the canvas. Here I'm using my white charcoal pencil, very easy to mark out onto the canvas, easy to clean off once you've finished your artwork, and most importantly, easy to see. You can pretty much mark out any background on any colour and you'll be able to see that white charcoal. As you can see here, I'm not trying to get every little detail. I'm pretty much just marking out my composition in a loose style onto the canvas so I know where it's going to sit. And for me personally, I don't know if it's an art rule or not, but I like to keep the same distance on each side of the subject to the canvas. That way it doesn't look lopsided, or you've done this beautiful artwork and you've got all this empty canvas that just doesn't look right. There's the rule of thirds. For me, I just like to make it quite simple. Keep your distances, let's say from your left to your right, or the top and the bottom, and just try to keep them fairly equal. That way it'll look aesthetically pleasing to the viewer and won't look all sort of lopsided and your brain will be going, what's going on here? Here I'm mixing a little yellow ochre into some antique white, and I'll just paint that outline in that bone colour, which I'll use as the base of my subject. And the brush I'm using is a 15mm fan brush, and it's just easy for coverage, and also the way it's fanned out there really makes it easy to be able to get in around those petals. see how I'm spinning and twirling the brush? I'm just trying to visualise the petals in my mind, and that way I find it easier to be able to follow the contours. Okay, now I've just switched out to a 15mm flat brush just so I can really get those edges of the petals, and that way it can just kind of crisp up the whole image. And just to show you how dexterous I am, I've swapped over to the left hand so that I don't get my big ugly head in the way. Okay, I've got my little saucer there, as you can see, and I like them because they're so easy to clean once you're finished with your little painting. And they're not big and bulky or get in the way. But I've just mixed a little bit of yellow and green together, and to be honest, I don't really know why I incorporated this particular colour, because as you'll see as we go further into the painting, I pretty much just paint over these greens anyway. Maybe I was thinking at the time as a bit of a green underlay, or let's say underglaze, but I do paint over them. A lot of these paintings are experiments as you're going through. Don't feel that you have to stick to that particular colour. It was just something I was feeling out at the time. And when I say experiment, I mean exactly that. They really are just an expression. You can always paint over it if you're not happy, so don't feel that you're locked into that one particular colour. Now I'm just using a little bit of that titanium white there, and again I'm just sort of feeling my way around the painting. Constantly have that visual going on where am I happy with that, am I not happy with that? So like I said, they are just a big experiment. It either looks good or it doesn't, and you pretty much know straight away. Having said that though, there is a caveat. Also, don't feel that you've wrecked something if it doesn't look exactly right, or it's not going in the direction you want as far as the reference goes. Now, references are very, very loose with this kind of painting. You're not really trying to get it exactly like a realism piece, but you are just trying to use that as a guide, let's say, to really just hit those points of symmetry so it doesn't look all wobbly and out of place on the canvas. And again, here I'm just using my 15mm flat brush, and I'm just starting to create those petals with that underglaze, which is just some raw sienna, and you could even use some yellow ochre, but it might be a little too yellow. So I just stick to the raw sienna, just a little bit more body or a little bit more oomph to that colour. And as you can see, I'm just starting to fashion out those petals. Alright, now back to the fun stuff. Here I've switched back out to my little palette knife or plastic spatula, and I'm starting to get that real nice textured feel, which really brings out that nice painterly feel that we're after, that nice loose, carefree feeling. And someone rubs their finger over it once it's finished, it's all those little bumpy textures, really does give it that nice painterly look. These little paintings really brighten a room. They're excellent for your bathroom, for your kitchen, for pretty much anywhere in the house. I like to just sit them on the desk, and it just feels really nice just to sort of look over and see a little creation that you've made. So really try to, if you are following along, just really try to just keep them small. You'll see later on that I put a little stand on the back of this one, and it is cut down from a video that I'd actually already created quite a few years ago, but that one was more of a crafty video. But this one here is really just concentrates on the painting itself. And when I say brighten the room, they really do, but you don't have to stick to the little paintings. You could easily go with a nice big metre by a metre painting on this one, and it would really be quite striking. It would grab everyone's attention when they walk in. So if you sell some of your artworks at markets or fairs, these kind of paintings really do well, because like I said, they're quite eye-catching, and people just want that nice, lively look to their room. And above all, they're really fun to make. This was just a snap of a flower that was hanging over my neighbour's fence, well actually my fence from my neighbour's yard, and I just happened to have my camera in my hand or my phone, so I took a quick snap of that, and I love it. Yeah, it was just something that's completely, let's say, copyright free, and it's just something that's totally organic. And now just quickly, as you can see, that titanium white is really starting to push those petals out from behind that underglaze of the yellow ochre. I was going to say yellow ochre, should say a raw sienna. Now we're going to start to get into the fun part as well, adding some of these red highlights. Now it's just a brilliant red that I'm applying here, and I'm still just using the edge of my 15mm flat brush, and I'm kind of just padding away at the edge of these petals and starting to just sort of give some interest to the outsides, which will really start to make that colour against that titanium white really pop out from the canvas. I'd just like to point out here, see how I'm just lightly scraping over that particular outside of that petal, just so it just gives it the illusion of a little colour there. And you can go heavy-handed and also just back off a little bit, just so that you can give some lighter textures and darker textures as they're needed. Just start to get some brush control, which will just come over time. And it's a real shame my big old builder's hand's in the way here, because I'm trying to express here how I'm just patting that edge of the brush onto the edge of the petal, and I'm just flicking that back in towards the petal. And in nature, you can get from one extreme to the other. You can have the most amazing blend. And on the other hand, you can have it quite blocky and disjointed, yet it all seems to look very pleasing and natural to the eye. So yeah, anything in nature, don't feel that you've got to have it absolutely perfect, because it's not. And that's what makes it all just so beautiful. With me being a country bumpkin out in the middle of the outback, I really get all the beauty of nature. I've managed to get those beautiful cerulean skies, and you know, when it sort of, I don't know if the city folk seem to get this, but when you're out in the outback, you get all these layers of the evening. Let's say it goes from a beautiful purple down to a nice sort of grey blue out to even a yellow ochre. It's just absolutely amazing. And that's not to have a go at the city folk either. I mean, some of those cityscapes are just absolutely amazing, and I'd love to sink my teeth into those as well. But if you get a chance, get out in nature, really just absorb yourself into it. And I better get back into this painting. So as you can see there, I've just got some nice, let's say, I think it's like a really dark green, which is probably just a terra verde. And I'm using that for the stem. Now, I have already painted an underglaze of a nice lighter green. And now I'm just using, again, the edge of that 15mm flat brush, and I'm just kind of, as you can see, dabbing the canvas there and giving in that illusion of darker shadow, plus that lighter green really manages to push that stem out. And just a point, have you noticed that I'm not actually blending? There's virtually no blending going on here at all. It's pretty much just dabbing the canvas with that brush. Alright, so we've got this far with our brilliant red. Now we're going to start to use some of that nice, really dark crimson, and it's going to really make those petals pop and give it that oomph factor that we're after. And again, no blending, I'm just dabbing the edge of that brush onto the canvas, on the outer edges of those petals, to really make it, like, you can take it two ways. You can say, is it shadow, is it really concentrated color? But at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that really tend to make those petals pop out, like I say, from the canvas. And this would really look good on a nice big meter by meter canvas. My wife sometimes pulls me back to earth and says, oh, look, a beginner won't be able to do that. But that's why I like this sort of layering and dabbing process. And to be honest, when I say this particular painting, I'm not even 100% sure what style it is. I actually had to go into ChatGPT and ask it, as I'm not classically trained. I'm just a self-taught artist. But having said that, I do worry a little sometimes with my terminology and whether I've got it right. So I'm learning as we go as well. And as you can see there, I've got a little pouch at the back where I can put some potpourri in, so it can smell nice as well while it's sitting on your desk, and that will be linked in the description for the full tutorial on how I went about doing that. But this particular painting was just focusing on this rose painting. Oh, and I better tell you what ChatGPT came up with, what this particular style was. It was called Loose Realism. Keeps the subject recognizable but without tight detail. Or it also come up with impressionist style or expressive realism. So as you can see, there's a few different names for this particular style, but again, as I said, it was just a fun little painting, and it's something that I hope that anyone can pretty much have a crack at. And if you're a returning painter also, please just break out them paints, get yourself back in the groove, and believe me, you will not regret it. Now, all these other little paintings were tutorials as well, which you'll find on my channel. But having said that, they're just, as I said earlier, nice little paintings you can have on your desk or around the buffet or just around the house to add some colour and just give it that little oomph, a nice little lift to the whole decor of your home. Now, please, 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 I can't express it enough, just the self-worth and the self-esteem and that zone you'll get in where you can just put out the world's problems just for half an hour a day will just really do good for your mental health and your own overall well-being. So with that said, look, please have a crack at one of these artworks, go back through and see if you can find anything that takes your fancy, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy painting, catch ya!